Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Spark of Genius Flesh and Blood production. We have another deck tech coming, but it's not just a deck tech. It's very special here. We haven't brought like a tournament update slash deck tech from a bigger tournament for a while. It's been me and Rob, mainly me, just having to make our own deck tech. We were waiting for like the deck that is actually interesting and had like a unique take on things to really like crush through the event. And 9-0 Lexi at a battle hardened in Singapore is definitely fits all our criteria. So we decided to reach out to Denny, and in the top right corner out there in Singapore, and he did very well. He nobody could beat him. And
Understatement of
so
the century. Yeah.
yeah, he did okay. And this was an event. This was the battle hardened at Singapore Comic Con, if I remember reading correctly. So with that, of course, I'm joined by my co-creator, co-commentator, co-caster, co-compatriot Rob on the top, and Denny. Say hi to the fans, the new Lexi fans you've clearly gained over the last event here. But it, it's interesting because whenever we talked about Lexi like in the meta, we're really like we don't know where to place her because I think Ranger in general has been very like specific at attacking the meta, but has never really made up the meta. Like you
Yeah.
never really saw like a whole lot of players going towards Ranger, taking a big piece, something like Guardian and Fi, something like that.
Right.
So whenever I see Lexi just come in here, I feel like it has to be quite a diverse deck to be able to take apart various matchups that you're going to be expecting here. So, Denny, I'm gonna just ask you, same opener here. Why Lexi? Tell me why you decide to bring Lexi to a battle hunt, other than the
Right.
posters.
The posters.
Yeah, the posters. Yeah, so I've been playing Lexi since the beginning of FAB when started FAB, which was the TOA release week.
Tales of Aria. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, Tales of Aria. So I've been playing her since then, and I haven't really played a lot of other heroes. Well, I do, but I think the main reason why I bring her to Battle Hardened is because that she's my favorite deck, and I think comfort is probably one of the more important factors for me
Hmm.
when it comes to like playing into like these events.
Mm.
So I think as you mentioned earlier as well, like it's pretty hard to find that sweet spot for especially for Rangers when the meta is still pretty open, especially
Right.
at this point in time. Yeah, but I think I ended up picking Lexi because of comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah. It's a good
Okay,
reason.
Yeah.
well, I mean, it's also good because we're in that transition period, right? Because not uprising, sorry, Dynasty came out. People are still kind of experimenting. I think Battle Hardens are like the only kind of events we've had,
Since
bigger
the
events that
release.
we've had yeah, since the release from
Yeah.
Provo. So everyone's still kind of experimenting with what the meta is even going to be here. So let's talk a little bit about the deck itself, and then we can kind of go into the deck, and then maybe the matchups. Obviously, you saw 9 games. You obviously saw more than one different type of matchup, so we can talk about kind of your approach and
Mm,
a little bit about like how that approach actually panned out to see is like you obviously you weren't beaten, but like some games are probably a lot harder than you thought they might have been.
Hmm.
Maybe they're easier.
mm.
So we can go through that as well. So let's talk about the core equipment here. So we have the FabDB link up for everyone to see here,
Yep.
and I see you're sticking with the Voltaire. None of that Death Dealer Lexi that I've been seeing people experiment with. Why sticking with Voltaire?
Right. I think Voltaire just gives you that aggro that you need as a ranger, especially because I think ranger do face quite a bit of a challenge against guardians.
Mhm.
And we did try to experiment with the Shiva build, the tall Lexi, and I think that if we are going into an aggro meta, that might be a viable option. But
Hmm.
with quite a bit of a guardian around, I think um, that option for you to go like wide and the occasional disruption
Hmm.
is really helpful. So I think that's why we stick to Volt there. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So we're looking at the equipment now next, right? So
Mm,
for the main equipment here, bullseye bracers, tunic, New Horizon, null boots, which is honestly probably like the more not haven't seen that much null boot slots. Usually either snaps or grapplers, which you have both of them. So kind of walk me through each section of the body, I guess here. So you're only
Right.
running bullseye bracers.
Yeah.
Did you experiment with the I want to say Hornet Sting? Is that the
Yeah,
name? Arm?
Hornet
That
Sting.
sounds about
Hornet
right.
Sting.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm still trying to remember all the names of the
Yeah.
equipment here. But is there any merit to playing like another glove other than bullseye right now?
I think we did consider Hornet Sting, because Hornet Sting plus Purge Grab with one card hand can actually block Command and Conquer.
Mm.
And Hornet Sting into like say Spy or Ninjas essentially helps you to block that one to prevent the muscle momentum trigger. So I think we did actually consider that, but it's just that when it comes to a meta with like again, I think I'm a little bit too scared of Guardians, so I think I'd rather have the extra slot for into Guardian. So we have enough disruption for I think for most of the aggro decks. So I think we will just make do with what we have.
Right.
Yeah.
That seems reasonable. New Horizon Tunic, I think, are fairly self-explanatory. I think I want to go into the boots slot. So you decided to add the null rune boots because I've seen snaps, I've seen grapplers, obviously very good for. You said Guardian decks. You definitely want like that extra armor to block like those on hits. But null rune boots, were you scared of like Kano Icelander, or was it specifically because I guess you could run up to null 2, I guess, right? You could run the bullseye and the null rune boots.
I think into Icelander I will only run the bullseye, so it would be a AB one. But into Kano I would I don't want to just give up on that matchup,
right?
Because of AB one essentially means that I think you'll pretty much dead the moment that they have Aether Wildfire. But yeah, so I think the Anorum Boots is there to respect Kano, and I did meet one, so I think it's probably game lifesaver over there.
It paid off, yeah. Do you remember? Did you face them early on, or was it later on in your matches?
Early on, I met Chu
so
Heng. I think he was one of the best.
Oh, you had Chu? Yeah,
No,
I recognize him. He was at Worlds. He's a very good player.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best on Kano. Yeah, no, fair enough. Talk to me a little bit more about, I guess, that match. I know we're going out of order here, but talk to me about the Kano matchup. I mean, you're running null 2. Are you trying to race that matchup? How often are you like getting enough pitch to like pitch 2 to whatever? Are you only like pitching 2 to Wildfire? Like, do you have a certain strategy in mind? Because I think Kano's like up and coming. He comes and goes.
Yeah,
he pleases,
comes and goes as he
pleases.
pleases.
I feel like Kano's going to see a lot more. I think he's going to see a lot more play going forward into the PQ season. So tell me a little bit about that.
Right. I think into the Kano matchups, we are essentially we try to go into the ice variant of this particular list. So we try to consistently give like at least one frostbite every turn. So at the moment, like we flip the ice card, they have to decide. Yeah, they have to decide whether they would want to go off. Otherwise, they would have to pitch more just to Kano off.
Right.
And I would like to think that I drew pretty well as well into Kano early on, so I was able to have a little bit of life lead. And I think I did draw Did I draw the Ring Razor early? I think I might have. So I think that really helped a lot for me to just keep putting on the pressure. And yeah, so I think against them, especially cards like Winter's Bite that really cost them a cut from their hand, is really helpful because they also don't have a lot of blocks, just like us. And the only block I think they had was Tunic, which was rendered a little bit useless the moment like I shoot a drill shot at them. So they essentially don't have a lot of blocks, and the moment that they do not have a lot of blocks as the ranger with a Ring Razor hand, I think you can really pull a hit really far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I just felt like, well, while we were there, we might as well.
While we're talking about Kano,
well, we're already there. Might as well order another meal here. So, as far as like the core deck and side deck, how did you kind of, because I know there's a couple ways of doing it, right? Some people like to build like a nice tight core deck, like 30-40 cards, and then like sideboard towards different variants of their deck. So in your case, I'm hazarding it's Ice and Lightning. just by just by like looking at it
Yeah.
and seeing the list before. And then some decks have like a bigger core deck, like a 50-60 card deck, and then they like tech cards for specific matchups. What was your like philosophy for building this particular deck? Was there like a deck that you took as a like a template and then kind of
Right.
moved around some pieces until it worked? How did you approach that kind of thing?
I did use. Okay, so I think I would like to give credit to my friend Fun Fei, because I think he really is the. I would like to think that he really is the person to make like the mix ice and lightning work. We did see like Yuki's list was really aggressive in the previous season, the Out of War build, and I sort of like married the two list, and this is what I have, because in her list, I think she runs. I don't think she runs lightning inside on her sideboard.
Right.
No, not
So
really. There's
Yeah,
there's a little bit
yeah.
of lightning, but
Definitely
there's
no Heaven's Claws, I think.
no
Yeah.
Heaven's Claw.
Yep.
I mean, there was some surges and some presses, but nothing.
I think that might have been it. Yeah.
Yep. So I think based on that list, and with the idea of like being able to switch to lightning, I think that was the main idea of this deck, just to be able to be aggressive, and the lightning is to be able to like just to, how they put it, like to extend your chain into matchups like Oldham's and Bravo. Yeah.
Okay,
Really targeting the Guardian matchups with the lightning package.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
that's fair. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the core deck. So I guess we could scroll up a little bit.
Yep.
Let's start with the arrow, maybe the arrows and the non-arrows that you would consider like the ones you're bringing into every matchup, and if it's particularly unusual, then you can kind of explain a little bit why. If I think it's unusual, I'll probably ask you why, but I'm not going to ask you why Endless Arrow would be like one of those.
Yeah, what a weird card to add in your main board.
Yeah, what a strange card that happens to be a super rare. So let's go for the top here, like Bolton Shot, reds and blues. Every matchup, I'm imagining they're coming in every matchup with the Voltaire.
Yep. So I think so all the Bolton shots, Endless Arrow and Drill shots are in every matchup. Of course, with the coupled with like Rain Razors, Tree of a Kind, and the Art of War. So those always comes in every matchup, because you just want that aggressiveness. Because really, if you have Bolton shot, Endless Arrow, and Rain Razor, with pitch, generally you can do a lot of things if your opponent doesn't really block well, right? So those are always in every matchup, and probably the core of every deck. But I just would want to highlight Drill Shot, I guess, because I really find that is the sort of the MVP into like most of heroes that want to, or rather have a lot of blocks on their equipment. Because I think like Lexi has always have or rather Ranger always had the problem of like facing all this thick fridge heroes, and you can't push the damage because of like your Endless Arrow can be blocked with two equipment. It sucked. So you kind of want to be able to chip in Drill Shot early in the game, and the reason why running 6 is because I want to be able to see it as soon as possible. And if you can actually get even like a -1 early in the game, I think that really helped in the long run.
Yeah.
100%. No, that totally makes sense. So I guess moving on to we've
got some more kind of sideboardy arrows, I guess, like the Chilling Ice Veins, or I assume those come into specific matchups.
Shots, that kind of thing.
Right. So for Chilling Ice Vein, blue one is still a pitch, so I would leave it there. But for the red and the yellow, I would bought them out for fatigue shots into Guardian matchups.
Okay.
That makes sense. So fatigue is really mainly there for go tall, like some good the big attack actions, right? So Guardians. You bring it into like Rhinar, stuff like that.
Yes, I did bring it to Rhinar as well.
Okay, that makes sense. And then an Ice Vein, you're gonna bring into like the aggro decks, right? A Fi. Fi is like the big one.
I was gonna mention like Katsu, but Katsu's kind of not much of a thing. I don't know about your meta, but I mean,
interestingly, I didn't really meet any Fi.
Wow. Yeah.
I didn't miss Fi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough. I'm sure in the testing you've done locally, it's probably quite good to be disruptive against Fi.
Yeah, but I think sometimes when you don't draw any ice, which is possible because I think you don't actually run too many ice either, you will be run over by fire as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. The pathing helixes, searing shots, are those more like core arrows?
In the main board as well. Yeah, is to extend. They are an extender as well for pathing helix.
Yeah, just a nice aggressive like go wide kind of arrow, which makes sense. Sleep darts, the yellow sleep darts. Interestingly, so where are the 2 yellow sleep darts coming in here?
Other than Icelander and Dash, I would always run sleep darts. It's a yellow pitch, and most of the time you only need yellow to be able to shoot 2 arrows.
Right.
And the ability is, well, to be honest, it's sort of like can be used into every matchup because I think most of the abilities, the hero's abilities are relevant. So that's why like I decided to put it in. In the off chance that I meet, Levia, then I could just shut them off. And having them take blood debt as well. Into Bravo, that helps to stop the their dominate, and into Reinar, it's more to to stop them from intimidating our cards because we still do want to block, but we just want to block with the right cards, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think Slip Dot is just generally a good card into most matchups. Yep.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, I'll pass it off to Rob to kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of curious about, we were talking about the lightning package and the ice package, and into aggro we go more ice, into guardian we go more lightning. Which of the cards in this list do you swap in and out for each of those packages? Because I assume you don't take everything out, or maybe you do, I'm not sure.
Right, so I'm taking out, so the 2 sides, I would say, like one is the lightning side and the other one would be the ice side. Lightning would be all the lightning cards, right? The Heaven's Call, Lightning Press, and Lightning Surges.
Right.
So those 8 cards. Well, as on the other side for the ice, there would be like 3 Arctic Incarcerations, then and all the Ice Quakes. So I think generally when we take out like ice, we are probably gonna face Guardians or Reinar. So those will be the time when we put in the fatigue shots as well. So it's usually together. Yeah.
That makes sense. And are there any builds or any matchups that you'd consider running part ice, part lightning?
Right. So I think so far no, because it's just not as efficient. Because the moment you try to mix the both of them, when you want a lightning and then you draw an ice, it kind of
you're
mess up your tempo
lowering
in the game.
your chances of drawing the element you need, so it makes sense to stick to one strategy. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. How about lightning press? Is that a card you would run kind of in both scenarios, or because it's a really good tool for finishing off the opponent? It's kind of like running your razor reflexes, stuff like that, right? So, is that a card you consider running into every matchup, or it's really only for the lightning package?
It's only for lightning package because I did consider to run lightning press, but the problem is that it doesn't block.
And big problem.
And it's kind of but your opponent will have the moment your opponent knows that you would run lightning press probably from the previous matchup. So you're sort of keeping them on the toe as well. Does he have lightning press and he's running? So but generally I don't run them because for other matchups, I think you already have you don't have a lot of issues in forcing them to block because of cards maybe say Chilling Ice Wind and then they have to pitch on this card, etc. So dropping cards may not be an issue, but in any case you already have Rain Razor and Out of War to be able to buff your cards. So I don't see to have lightning press into those matchups. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think you'd rather see your Rain Razors over the Lightning Press pretty much any day. So putting them in just dilutes your deck a little bit more than it needs to.
Yep.
Yeah. Should we jump into specific matchups, or maybe we can talk about maybe some of the matchups you've seen in your 9 rounds. That could be fun to look into. Yeah.
I have one. So before we get into the matchups here, which one of these cards overperformed for the day? So we'll do an overperform, underperform. I know you're mentioning drill shot. I don't know if that's gonna be your pick, but as far as throughout the day / testing, maybe it's a card that was really bad in testing and ended up you kept it and it was really good on the day or anything like that.
Even the blue ones, I'm curious to know if those performed as they should, or
They
if they were
look
mostly
they look
pitching.
really good. They look
They
really
do.
good,
Right.
but I don't
Yeah.
know if they actually were.
I think for the blue drill shots, even if we were to shoot early game, they would either have to drop a card or decide to like give away the armor. So yeah, they're just generally good card for Ranger that's printed recently. But
Yeah.
to say like it being the most, I think the best card so far in this deck, in my opinion, is Art of War.
Oh yeah.
Simply because Art of War is, at least for Lexi, I always try to sell this to people. For Lexi, Art of War is an unmovable as well. So Art of War is really really good offensively. I think we all know that. But
Yeah.
for Ranger, especially like into Guardians or into any CNC that you see,
Yeah.
Art of War is really good because you can just it has another text that says that you can block from Arsenal.
You
I was
rarely
about to
look
And
at
say,
that text. That's a text
yeah,
that I rarely look at.
I mean, yeah, you can block from Arsenal, which means that you, even if it's dominated attack, for Lexi with Voltaire, you can actually still block 9 because you
Yeah.
can, on instant speed, use your Voltaire as well after Art of War to load 2 arrows. Drawing
That's
2 cards and then load 2 arrows, block 1 card from hand and 2 from Arsenal, so you can still block 9 and dominated attack.
that is so
Yeah.
funny. I
I
have
like it.
never considered that at all. So that is very funny.
I can see
Yeah.
it, but like
You're
it's yeah,
tricking
the
the
fact that you
system.
can load Arsenal.
It's like I
Yeah,
can't block with
you're
hand,
going
but let me
around.
block with 2 cards from Arsenal. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very
Yeah,
nice. Yeah.
because if let's say you were to pitch like a blue and you would still have floating, a
Like
few more
2
resources for
floating.
you to
Yeah.
like load. Yeah, so even like if let's say you already have cards in your arsenal and then you have to give it away because Command and Conquer is coming, you can always end the turn by just loading extra arrows that
Right.
may have like on hit effects and just load it up and just shoot it to the following turn, so you don't totally lost the tempo of the game. Yeah, I really love Art of War.
Yeah. They've made it such a
That's fair.
versatile card. There's a reason why it fits into
Yeah.
so many decks. It's a really good card.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So that was
Okay.
the overperformer. That was the one overperforming card. Yeah.
Yep,
Right.
definitely. I dodge
Okay.
a lot of Command and Conquer and Spinal Crushes with Art of War.
That's awesome.
Okay. That makes sense. We can go into some of the matchups that you played and we can talk and we could go like side by side, like what you sided into them and then how they kind of did,
Right.
based on your performance. We kind of went through Kano already. Did you sided you went ice into Kano? Was that
Yes, Ice into Kano.
right? Okay. So you did Kano. What were the other matchups that you kind of saw in your Swiss?
We've seen
and
quite a
top
few
eight?
Bravos, right?
There were 2 Bravos. My first match was into Bravo, so I was
Okay,
like,
so your round,
okay,
your round 1 and your round 9 was into Bravo.
yes. It
Fair
was.
enough.
Yeah.
So you side Lightning into Bravo. So you're bringing in Surge, Press, Heaven's Claw, Fatigue Shot, I guess is kind of what you
Yeah.
mentioned before. Did everything kind of go as planned? Was there anything kind of crazy on the Bravo side, or were you just trying to kind of whittle them down with big turns, or how did you approach that?
Right. I think into the last match, which was the Bravo against Berlin, I think she did quite a few back-to-back. Was it Spinal Crushes? And then like the dominated attack that drops 2 cards.
Yeah, Crypto Crush.
Yeah. I think without Art of War, I think I might have died there and then.
Okay.
And also, I think she did represent CNC Pommel on the very first turn as well.
Oh, turn one.
Seems good.
Yeah, and again, like I could have lost the game if I don't have Art of War there.
Art of War.
So I think, so I really think that Art of War is the card that outperform everything else in these. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And I assume the goal of the lightning package is to just push damage as much as you can. You're not disrupting them, right? You're just going for, I would say, as close to vanilla damage as possible here with this kind of build. But the idea would be just to kind of hit them as hard as they can, and then whenever they dominate you, you just kind of block up, take it turn by turn, and then just kind of push back harder.
Yep. Yeah, I think the lightning presses also helps to catch your opponent off guard. I think against the final match, I drew two lightning press together. It felt bad because I needed to block like the previous turn. I drew I think two lightning presses and I can't remember what's the other one, but I think it's a two pitch and a Bolton shot. And I have three of a kind in my arsenal. So I shot a vanilla 5 Bolton shot, and because she knows that I already have like a card in arsenal, I won't be able to reload it. So she decided not to block. But then like I double lightning press was able to like catch up on the life lead by a lot.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one way of doing it.
It's another reason why lightning press is a little rough too in the deck. When you have three of a kind, it's like you can't really get them out, right? So they can be a bit clunky that way.
Yeah. That makes sense. Did you face any old hymns?
No, I think there was only like one or two old hymns in the event.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I didn't see any old hymns.
Is your strategy the same, or does it change into old hymn?
It's more or less the same, I would say. I think it's exactly the same. I might have a little bit more cards, maybe 62. I would still leave maybe the red chilling ice beam because I'm just afraid of being fatigued out. So I would have that extra 2 cards, but otherwise it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, Lexi had an issue of being fatigued. I remember back in the Pro Tour 1 era where I think Starvo was a thing still back then, where you could with a bit of luck, you can fatigue Lexi. And then because she has no weapon that attacks, right? Once you lose her, when she loses her arrow density, at that point you can just win the game. So the extra cards make a lot of sense.
Rob's casually taking a pot shot at my PT Lexi game on stream where I got literally fatigued by Starvo.
Well, I remember.
And he probably doesn't even remember.
I mean, now it's coming back. But I also played Starvo in that time, and I was able to fatigue Lexi with Starvo, right? So I can see Guardian, especially Oldham now, being a main threat to Lexi in being able to fatigue her out. So the extra cards make a lot of sense.
What were your the rest of your Swiss games? So your Swiss round 3 to round 6, I guess.
So round 1 was against Bravo. Round 2 was
Kano, right?
That was round 7. Kano was round 7.
Okay.
No, sorry. Round 5. Round 5.
Okay.
Then there was round 6 was Briar.
Briar.
And round 2 was Icelander. Yeah, round 2 was Icelander, and then round 3 was Dash.
Okay. Oh, you got the full variety here.
Yeah, I mean those are all top level heroes, pretty much. We can talk about Icelander briefly just to see what your strategy is.
Let's talk a little bit. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Icelander. So you went with the lightning package, or maybe you went with the ice package. I'm not actually sure.
I would go with the ice package because as much as Icelander loves to give people frostbite, she is also afraid of frostbite.
She doesn't like them herself. Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't like them herself because that choked up a lot of cuts. Because like most of, if I understand Icelander correctly, because I don't really play Icelander, like one blue pitch generally wants to do maximum to maximize the resource, right? Usually it's like one from Arsenal and then like maybe a winning moon.
She's very efficient with her mana or her pitch usage. Yeah.
So the moment like you represent like one extra frostbite, they would have to decide then like whether they want to go off or not. If they do actually, like I think it's also similar to Kano, for wizards when they have less cards and we know that they don't have a lot of blocks as well. And you have the correct combination of cards, for instance, like Wind Rager and Bolton shots in hand, that generally will, you probably would be able to get the game from there onwards because you would have the tempo and the lead.
Yeah.
The moment that they are on a lower life, they wouldn't, I don't think they would go off unless that it's really like their last turn. But otherwise, like into them, I only run AB1 because most of the time we don't have enough pitch to prevent more than one arcane. So I think the idea is just to have in mind that every turn you are gonna have to play around with 2 extra resources, because I think on average they would generate or rather prevent you from having to resort to, be it from frostbite or like winter spite or even
Attacks, yeah.
their ice beam, it ice beam
Yeah.
that force you to drop two resource, right?
Mhm.
So I think in general we'll just have to play around with that. I think just be patient as well, because I think sometimes you don't have the combo pieces in your hand, which is like the Rain Razor or even Out of War.
Yeah.
Then you just have to slowly, but not too slow, because I think whenever you can present damage, you have to present damage to Icelander, because the longer the game, I think it would benefit the Icelander side, especially if they are able to set up like Frost Hexes, etc. So I think generally that's the case.
Yeah, and I'll also add to the pitch scenario too. In a lot of decks we're seeing today, we're seeing a lot of 3-cost 7-attack action cards in Icelander, right? So Fyando's Fighting Spirit, we see the Wounded Bulls as well. So in those decks where you could usually pitch a single blue card to attack for 7 or 8, now you got to pitch 4, right? And it's a lot more painful to do that. So I can definitely see the Frostbite ruining their turn, or at least hampering it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I decided to take out Sleep Darts as well into them, because I think like Sleep Dart doesn't really affect them. So instead, I would run Fatigue Shots, just in case they run, as you mentioned, Wounded Bull.
Yeah, exactly.
The big attacks, yeah.
You wouldn't expect that on a wizard, but here we are.
It's a different kind of era. So you mentioned Briar. Let's just talk about a little bit about the Runeblade matchups in general. I guess Briar and Viscera, I imagine the sideboard's pretty similar. So what is I think it's the ice package that you're bringing into that matchup, but talk to me about that.
Right. It's definitely ice package, especially the Briar, where they really want to keep, like, say, their channel mount on. And I think the moment I met Briar, I believe that they did manage to draw, or rather, like, showed me the channel mount with the Ravenous Rebel. So I do know that they arsenal the channel mount, but they were not able to fire it off at all until the end of the game. It was stuck there because every time I was able to like create at least one Frostbite, and they would not be able to play it, because that means that they would have to pitch 2 cards just to play the channel mount. So I think they decided to just use the pitch for something else to present damage. So I think the having the channel mount in the arsenal for very long means that they would have to play with 4-card hands at most. They can't exactly play with their arsenal. And even if they did, I think I did have enough, I did have enough disruptions for them to not be able to play, to shut them off essentially with, especially the Arctic Incarceration. So for Arctic Incarcerations, because like Lexi will reveal this and then gives 1 Frostbite, right?
4 Frostbites.
But I don't always immediately play it, because like for instance, if let's say I see them, they're already blocking, so I will just leave it there. I'll just leave it there, and I'll just use it when I think they're not blocking, and end the turn with the Arctic Incarceration, so that they have at least 3 Frostbites to go through.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because when you're catching an aggro deck blocking you anyway, you're not really afraid at that point. It's like, I've got a block out of their hand or a few cards out of their hands. Their damage potential has basically like halved at least if they've lost a few cards. And so keeping the card on the back, just for one of those turns where they start taking damage, and you're like, okay, now I can punish that heavily by giving them 4 Frostbites or 3 Frostbites. So very good strategy.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not going to go through every single matchup for everyone who's watching. The FabDB link, I think.
I think there are some notes in the FabDB link too.
There are notes.
Yeah,
I imagine Denny, you wrote them. I imagine. Could be wrong. So we're not going to go through every single matchup. Was there any other matchup that you wanted to highlight as being like an interesting one, or something that like you had some notes for people who were like taking it into it, or something specific about the sideboard that maybe wasn't mentioned in like one of the other packages? Anything like that?
I think Dorothea was one of the top 8 match that I had. I really am not great into Dory, because I don't think I had a lot of practice into it. I think I only had like 1-2 practices into Dory matchups, and we don't run any TVX. So that's really hard
Right.
into Dory. And they have a lot of blocks because of their fridge as well.
Yeah, so drill
Because
shot
of their
coming in
equipment.
there pretty good.
Yeah, drill shot has to make them think whether they want to give and have a full card hand. So I think generally into Dorian Theatre, people always think about like how to block efficiently and make sure that their attacks don't go through. But I think for this build, of course, we go with the ice build. So we generally want to strip off their entire hand and not having them not being able to swing their Dawn Blade at all. So I think the sequencing of the cards were pretty important. For instance, I think I did was it Chilling Ice Vein, revealing a Winter's Bite, and then like swing another arrow. So they have to block the Ice Vein, and then they have to block the other arrow. And then the moment I end off with a Winter's Bite, then they would have no hand to swing, so they would have to drop off their counter on the Dawn Blade. Essentially, I think the only way for Lexi to actually stop their Dawn Blade from going too big is to keep taxing them so that they can't swing their weapon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
that
awesome.
makes sense.
It's a matchup I wouldn't have thought about asking, to be honest, because we haven't seen too many Dories in our current meta. So
Yeah.
Dory's always been there on the on the back burner, kind of waiting for her time to come into the spotlight, and I think she might soon. We've seen some interesting stuff. I know Eric showcased an interesting deck lately, recently.
I'm talking about the regular Dawn play, not the saber dagger build. That's coming out later, but I'm not releasing that one yet. But
the Dorians they really do get a lot of support though.
Yeah.
Dory, I feel like with Guardian and Mech are like those classes that just keep getting cards every single set. I think it's just a matter of like, being spread a little bit too thin here. But that being said, I'm trying to think. I had this question. Oh man, I completely forgot what it was. Did you end up opening your gold foil? Of course, you won the gold foil for the first place. I don't know if you ended up opening it.
Yeah, I did. We all did together. So
Nice.
it was Phantasmal Footsteps.
Oh, that's
it was
really
a Phantasmal
good
Footsteps.
Congrats,
that is strong.
That is awesome. That's one of the only gold foils I actually considered buying, just because it's so beautiful.
It's a very good looking gold foil. Yeah, I remember the price was very high a while ago. It's still not cheap, but
like
it's
5,000 easily. Yeah.
Congratulations. I mean, that's the gold foil right there.
Yeah, that's what you wanted to see. Yeah. I guess lastly, do you have any shout outs for the deck? I assume you prepped this deck with some friends you mentioned, with a good friend of yours, or friends, or a team, exactly. Anyone you want to shout out for this deck?
Definitely, like as I mentioned just now, like my friend Sunfei is probably like he's a brain like into this deck, making this lightning and ice mix work. Yeah, and definitely like to all we have like our own group in Singapore, like the FAB Ranger group. So we do like love to brainstorm on the different arrows or like the different strategies that we can bring in. So I would like to shout out to them as well. And throughout the year, definitely like I do have like a lot of playtest groups. So the Enlightened Spikes group, or like Kayang and National Champs, Gordon's playtest group as well. And then like we do have like my neighbors, a few of them are playing as well. So like the Void Deck group. So and the local LGS as well, Apex, Diamond G, and Jukes. Like really thankful for everyone who plays. So I get to tweak and change like arrow here and there just to make sure that to be able to be where I am now. I think last but not least is really like the person who introduced me to this game, Stuart. Lost in Space. You might have heard of his channel before.
Yeah.
I've heard of him. Yep.
So he was the one who introduced me to this game. So I really am thankful for everyone for the past year. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, congratulations again. 9-0 Lexi. I mean, definitely for all the viewers out there, try it out. Denny is painstakingly written out all these general plans and notes that you could use, which is something you don't see a lot for these kinds of decks here. So with that, if want to give Ranger a little bit of a spin, maybe Azalea is not really your speed here. You want some elements in your life. A little bit of lightning, a little bit of ice. Maybe is all you're looking for. A little bit of aggression.
Sounds like a dating
with that
pitch.
It is the dating profile for Lexi. I mean, I've played Lex, like I played it at Pro Tour 1. It got me to day 2. I can't be sad with Lexi. a great pick into various different metas. She's very fun. I think Voltaire New Horizon, just so good, just so fun.
Yeah.
To be able to like actively have like 6 cards on your side of the field to do whatever you want with. It's just so nice. So Denny, I appreciate your time coming on here, talking about your experience in the deck. And with that, hope everyone enjoyed watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you did. If you have any comments about the deck, Denny may or may not read them. It's really up to him if he wants to answer them or not. And with that, from wherever you're watching in the world, have a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Bye for now.